Hi guys, nice having you guys online again today. It's the Flutter Sundays episode 5, as we've been already having, and we are already enjoying it. Last week we had few issues with Google account. I mean the YouTube account actually, but it has been resolved. So we are going live today. We are going to start continue from wherever it stopped. So without wasting much time, I will invite Etonam in. And as usual, I have Etonam here and I have Renda here. Then Deborah is also here as well. So quickly, I will just bring Etonam in, and Renda is also here as well. Hi, Renda. So with your questions and answers, he's also here to answer them as well. Yeah. So quickly, Etonam, over to you.
Okay. Yeah. So we will continue from where we stopped last week, and one thing I realized from last week's video is the video stopped like a while back whilst I was still explaining. So I will quickly go back and try to explain most of the stuff again. So currently, this is how our app looks like. So we have a text widget here, 2 text widgets. We have an image, another text widget. We have a row here with a text widget, an image, and another text widget. And we are trying to now make an API call to the Open Maps API to get the weather information of my current location. So with what I've done so far, I have a folder called models, which currently is empty. I have another folder called services. So the services folder has a file inside called the weather service. So this is it. It's a class that we basically use to make the network call and return a response. Then later, like, we consume that response and display the values we get from the API. And I have another folder here, which is API keys. So the other time, I think I mistakenly displayed the API key. So that was why the video was interrupted. So today I've refactored that. So now the API key is inside this file. I can't open it. Otherwise, the video will be stopped again. So yeah. So let's continue with, okay, let me explain this, the weather service class. So basically we have our endpoint. So this basically returns a string, and that is our, and this is our endpoint. So we are basically using the open weather.
If I can interrupt just for a second, can you make the text a little bigger again?
Yeah.
I like to be able to actually read the text from where I'm sitting. So there we go. That's plenty. That's good. Thanks. Just checking in for that.
All right. So we have this. So this returns a string, which is our open weather API, and this can be located. Yeah. So when you go to openweather.org, you should be able to get this, and you basically have to log in, and inside your profile you see a drop down called API keys, and basically you can pick your API key from there. And currently so when you go to this API, right, there are different APIs available. We have getting just the current location and getting 4 days hourly forecast and other stuff. But currently we are using the daily forecast for a maximum of 16 days. So I'll just go to the API docs, and basically, so there are different sections. This basically uses the city name. So all you have to do is provide a city name, then it will give you the weather information of that city. But we are using latitude and longitude, which is I think did I pass it? Okay, I think I passed it. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is so yeah, basically using the latitude and longitude. So to explain the API, so we have let me see. Yeah, so our latitude and longitude as usual. That's our current location. Then we have app ID. So the app ID is basically the our API key, which you have to get from the from your profile. Then we have the CNT. So the CNT is basically the number of days. And currently, looking at our UI, you only need 2 days. So our CNT is going to be 2 days because it has to be between 1 and 16. Then you have the mode. So the mode of the response, whether you want it to be XML or JSON, and we'll be going with JSON response. Then we have the unit. So we have different type of units. I think we'll be going with metric. Yeah, we'll go to metric. Then you have the language, which is so I mean, if it's French, it's English, Spanish, basically, it will give you the response in that format. So this is for the API, and yeah, so I have the API in my Postman. So we use Postman to make API calls to basically verify whether that API is working, and also to see the response. Yeah. So this is basically what I have. I have some dummy location here. As usual, I have my unit metric. I have my CTN, which is 2 days. I have my app ID, which is the API key, which I am hiding somewhere. So that I want to display it. And when I basically make this call, this is the response that I get. So I get the city, domain, country, Ghana. So this is a short form, time zone, the population in domain, number of days. And so this is basically if the weather information at my current location. So let me see, where should I? Okay. So to continue from here, we've constructed our endpoints, and we have our function which returns a response, an HTTP response that requires us to pass our latitude and longitude. And inside this function, we are waiting. So we are making a call to the endpoint, this endpoint over here, and basically awaiting a response. And then, so this is how it is done. And so currently now we have to return that response. As you can see here, it's saying that this function has a return type of future or response, but it doesn't end. So basically we have to return the response. So the error is gone. And to say this quick tip, so I mean, by default, you won't see this type of error messages in VS Code by default. For example, when I take it like this warnings, you won't see them by default. I'm using an extension called I think error lens. Yeah, it's called error lens. So that's what I'm using to basically display the errors of my warnings. So now we have our function which returns a response, and then we can continue to our UI, which is the main.dat. Yeah. So inside our main.dat, we have our homepage class, which is stateless, but we need it to be stateful because we have to make So we have to make the API response, return it, right? Basically update the UI. Therefore, we need to basically play with our state. So therefore, to easily change this class from stateless to stateful, when you click on this, or even when you click on the class, right, and you see this icon over here, this bulb yellow icon. When you click on it, you see two options, so or some number of options. One is convert it to mixing, another one is convert to stateful widget. So when you click on convert to stateful widget, it automatically convert it to a stateful widget for you. And when I reload this, as you can see, there's been no change basically in the UI. It's still what it was. So basically, then what I have to do, so when the app opens for the first time, I'll basically make the API call and then return the response and basically update the UI. So in order to do this, I'm going to basically override the init state. So basically, this is when the app opens for the first time, this method is called the init state. So basically, anything we put here will be run like the first time that the app opens. A little disadvantage of this is because it runs only once, which is the start of the application. If later in the life of the app or the life cycle of the app, there has been any change from the API or there has been any data change, you won't probably get it because this method is just going to run once, then it will stop. That's one disadvantage. So that's what brings us to some things called like streams. So we have something called stream. So stream basically, it's like you are connecting a pipe to a water source. So then the water just keeps flowing through the pipe until you explicitly state that you want to close that pipe. So basically, you are closing the stream, which you do that inside your dispose. So there's another method called dispose. So yeah, so this we have this runs when the app when you close the app or when the app is should I say destroyed, yeah, or when you exit the app, then this method is basically called or is invoked. When the app starts for the first time, this method is invoked. So now to basically make get our data, I'll call the weather. So we have weather service. So I don't know, maybe I explained this the other time, but anytime you see a variable with an underscore before the name, right? So as you can see here, there's an underscore before weather service, right? It means that this particular variable is private. If you are if you're already familiar with something like Java or C# and most of the C family languages, right? They have private classes and public classes, or public variables and private variables. So this instead of, let's say, in Java, you need to actually write it that this is private, right? But in that, you don't really need to do that. You can just use the underscore before the variable name, which indicates that this is a private variable. So now inside, so I think I'll just create another function called get weather data, and yeah. So I'll then say underscore weather service. So we have a class inside the weather service called, yeah. So yeah, as you can see, we have endpoint here. We have get weather service here. Now I want to change something so that I'll use it to explain the underscore thing I just said. So we don't really need to show the endpoint, should I say, method or function over here, right? So inside, what I'm going to do is inside our weather service, right? I'm going to try and make this in private. So over here, I just have to add the underscore also here. So currently, what I'm saying is this endpoint method here is private to only this class, like no one else or no other class or variable, no other class outside this weather service will see it. So let's see whether that really works. So when I service, no. Yeah, so when I click on the where's this one from? Yeah. When I click on the dots, as you can see now the endpoint method is no more showing. It's because now it is private, so we can't see it. So by default, all variables are public, and so you actually state or add and so you state by adding the underscore before the variable that it should be private. So I'll use this, which is get weather service, and get weather service takes two parameters, which is latitude and longitude. And what I'm going to do is, so since this is a future, I'm going to call the dot then. This dot then basically returns as a response. So let me just change this into response to make it a little clearer. Yeah, so now we'll be doing some integrations. That's our weather plugin, our location plugin, sorry. So in order to do that, we will go to where we will get our weather plugins. That's pub.dev. Then we can just search for location. You can see here a Flutter plugin to easily handle real-time location in Android iOS. So yeah, let's just go for this. Yeah, and to quickly explain this I think I tried to explain the last time, but I wasn't done. So basically, when you search for a plugin, right, basically you see the plugin name here and the version, the current version. You can easily copy it just by clicking this, and you have the day that it was published, the current published date. Then you probably see something like this here. It depends on the plugin. This means that it has been something like verified by the developer, by the uploader of the plugin. And this indicator here shows that this plugin supports null safety, right? Yeah. Then we have the platforms that it supports. So currently it supports Android, iOS, Mac OS, and web, which means it doesn't support Windows and Linux, right? So this is the number of likes that it has gotten. I mean, you can easily like it just by clicking here, but you need to be logged in. Then we have the README of the package. So this is basically an overview of how the package works. We have the change log. So the change log is basically the different versions that have been uploaded, what's changed over time. Then we have an example of how to use that package. We have how to basically install the package. Then we have versions of the package. Then we have the scores, which like what you see over here. So this is a brief overview. Okay, so on your right, you'll see basically some metadata. That's the publisher, the GitHub repo or GitLab repo, or like any version control that you are using. You'll see it over here. Then we have the documentation, that's the API reference. We have the license that it supports. Then we have other packages that it depends on. So basically, maybe it is also using another package inside this package. Then we have more like the packages which are built on this. So this package is this the first one is the one that it uses. This one is the one that uses it. Yeah. So going over the README. So this is basically how to get started. So that we should basically add it. So I'm going to add it without the version to prevent it. So when you add a package, you can easily just go to your terminal and type data packet. Basically, should I say download the package and sync it with your project. Yeah. Then yeah. So looking at the documentation, it says that so it's saying that on Android we don't need to really do anything. If like because we are using Flutter 1.12 and above, like we don't really need to do anything. It automatically add everything to us. But on iOS, it says that we need to add this permission into our info.pdis file. So I'll quickly do that. So to open, so as I explained earlier, right, we have different folder structure. So we have this folder for the Android side. So this basically helps us do integrations on the Android side, right? This Android folder here, and this helps us do integration on the iOS side. So this is native or custom integrations which we have to do for our app to be able to communicate with some native APIs. If I say native APIs, I mean something like location, camera, and other stuff. Those are like native API to the phone. So in order to open this, you can just right click this, and moving down the options, you see open in Xcode. So in order to be able to open an iOS project, you will need Xcode, and Xcode doesn't work on. Unfortunately, Xcode doesn't work on Windows. It only works on Mac. Yeah, that's Apple for you. So to add our permission, right? As you can see, it says shut it into info.pdis. So there's a file. Where is this? Yeah. So there's a file in here called info.pdis, which is inside runner. So when you open, I know there's a runner here, but there's another runner folder underneath it. When you open it, you see info.pdis. So you can just open it. So you can choose to add it from here, right? Which is much should I say cleaner or simpler, or you can also open it as source code. So when you right click on this again and you move down, you should see open as, and you can also open it as source code. That's, yeah, you open it this way. I think I'll just use the property list over here. So we are supposed to add when in use. So basically this is so it will ask for, I think, two permissions. That is one is when the app is in use, and another one is well, always. So to add a new one, a new property, just probably beneath the last one or something, just click on an add, and we will add our key, which is this, and then text, right? So you need to add a description, because this description, Apple actually displays it, iOS actually displays it to the user. So I can say whether app is to use your location. This is not really descriptive, but in an actual app or in a production app, you need to add something descriptive. Otherwise, Apple will probably like reject it. So this is one. Then to add the second one, yeah. I'm still going to say probably the same thing. Weather app is to use your location. Always, not just add always. So it is edited. As you can see here, the color has changed, and we need to save this file. So you can easily Command S or just click on the save for you to save it. Then are we done here? Let me see. Yeah, so basically, as you can see, for the iOS, we are done. The rest is for web and also the Mac OS. So basically, now we can close this, right? And one thing I would like to say is we'll need to basically restart our app again, like kill it and start it all over again, because we just added like should I say plugins that or a package that makes use of native code integration. So at this moment, Flutter that doesn't really know of those native integration code, right? So when you try to use it now, it's probably going to give you an error that something like, I think method not found, or let's try it basically and see the error it will give us. Then we'll look at how to quickly solve it. So the usage. So basically we have to import the package. So I'll go back to my main and import it. Then I go back to the documentation. In order to request for location, you should always check manually location service status and permission. So basically, you need to check whether the user has allowed permission or the user has enabled the location service, right? So I think I can just copy this whole thing, and then I'll probably explain it. Yeah. So so over here beneath our get weather data method, I'm going to create another method called permission. I'm going to paste whatever I copied over here. Yeah. So now we have some number of errors. One is await. The await permission can only be used in an async function. So usually when you are awaiting a function, right? You when you are awaiting an expression, you need to make it asynchronous by adding the async keyword. So just over here, I'm going to add async. Or one quick fix can be also when you click on this again, you see our Bob icon here. When you click on it, it will give you a quick solution that is add async modifier. So when you add it, as you can see here, it has added it for you. I will extract all this outside our function. Can I put it here? I'm going to make this final. So the reason why I'm making all this final is so the final keyword basically means that this is just going to be one in memory. Like this location class we are calling, right? I mean, if you don't add final to it, if inside the classes of they haven't handled it as a singleton, right? So singleton basically means that this class can can exist one and only one only. So there can only be one type of this particular class in memory, right? So if the class, like inside the class, it has not been handled, right? And you're basically just calling the class. I mean, if you call the class, let's say 5 times, you're going to have 5 of those classes in memory, which is basically just, I mean, wasting memory or using memory. So when you add the final keyword, basically, you're saying that this class can exist only once in memory. So when you anywhere in the app again, when you call the, like when you declare something like this again, and it's realized that it is already in memory, right? It won't create a new one. It will just use the existing one to perform whatever function it wants to perform. And also with final, you can't modify it after its declaration. That's one thing you have to keep in mind. So like you can't reassign this to another variable after stating the final keyword. So so over this, basically we are basically declaring our location class, and over here we have a boolean. So a boolean, you use the keyword bool, which as you can see here, it is true and false. Then we have an enum called permission status. So this basically has a number of enumerations inside, which is granted, limited, denied forever. So basically, if our location has been granted, denied, and other stuff, then we have the location data. So the location data is a class which actually contains methods which we will basically use to get our latitude and longitude. So going back to our ask permission, right? Let me add. Yeah. So just quick class. Let me check them. Oh, there's an error somewhere. No, okay. Right. So to also explain this, basically this, so we have a boolean here, right? It calls so as you can see, underscore underscore underscore. So it means this is private, right? So this is private to this particular class. So we have service enabled. So we are saying that so we are checking from this this function, right? Service enabled function. It returns a boolean, a future boolean. So basically we are awaiting it to know whether over here. So we are checking whether the user has enabled their service location service. So asking for permission is different from the location service, right? So what for example, in something like Android, right, you can choose to actually turn off your location totally, right? So that is something like that's the location service. So basically, we first need to check whether the user has done that or not. If the user has done something like that, then we request for it that he should turn it on. Otherwise, we just return. So like we just return from this function, then that's it. It means that the user already has the location turned on, right? So we don't need to do anything else. Then going downwards, now we are now come to check for the location itself. So the location permission. So basically, this is also a function that returns an enum, a future enum. So basically, we are checking whether we have location permission. So whether the user has granted us location permission. So over here, we are checking whether the permission granted has been denied, right? So if, let's say, the app has asked for permission, the user has denied the permission, right? We are saying that we want it to request for permission again. And also over here, we are checking if the permission granted is not also equal to granted. We want to return from the function. We don't want to do anything else. Is this how it's? I think if it's enabled, right? We don't want to do anything. And also this, if this is granted, yeah, we don't want to do anything. Then the last line here, we are basically getting our location. So as we know, when the code is running, it runs from the top to bottom, right? So basically it's going to pass all this. So based on how these if statements go, then we get to this. So this basically is where we actually get our location data. So basically that's it. And currently now we are assigning location data to this over here, right? So basically that's it. So now we need to call this function. As I said, we need to call this function the first time the app also opens. So inside our init, where's our init here? So inside our init, we can basically here, and then just to be safe, right? Inside our get weather data, right? We're going to check whether there's a location data. So if it's not now, then we want to do all this. Then we want to like, so if it's not now, right, then it is that we can now get, so over here, inside our latitude, we can then say location data dot latitude. And also over here, it's a location dot longitude. So basically that's it. So that's it. And yeah, so I mean, I think we should also await this function since it's a future, right? So we'll add our await keyword and then add the sync modifier. And also, if there's an error whilst getting the data, we need to handle it. So after the then, right, there's method called the catch. Yeah. So catch error. So if there's any error, we will get it over here. And there's another one which I also like using. I mean, some endpoints don't have the timeout implementation on the server side. So timeout basically means that usually it takes 60 seconds for an API to send a request and get a response, right? So if after that 60 seconds there's no like it hasn't completed the task, you usually time it out and tell the user that maybe their internet is slow or you can't access their internet or something like that, right? So I'll add another one called timeout. So this timeout basically takes duration. So duration which we want, I'll say 60 seconds, right? And then so it gives us a callback to. I think the callback is called timeout. Yeah. All right. So we have this done, and what again? Yeah. So currently we are. Oh, I think let me first test all this. Let me see how it goes. So we need to call our get weather also on start of the app. So I'll basically put it under the ask permission because you need to ask permission before it starts this. So I'm basically going to just hot restart the app, and yeah, so we have an error, right? And this is the error here. I know you can see. So it said missing plugin exception. So no implementation found for method enable service. So as I said, we just added the plugin, and currently Flutter or Dart, the Dart side doesn't really know that there's a class or there's a method called enable service, right? So what we have to do is we just have to stop our application totally and just start it again. So as it is building now, now it's going to build with the native code. So it's now, it will now know that, okay, there's a function somewhere, there's a method somewhere called enable service. So this is going to take a while. So as it is building, when it is done building, right, and the app opens, it's if you don't have good internet service, right, it's going to take some time for it to basically fetch the data. So for us to basically let the user know that, okay, we are fetching data, or the data is coming, I mean, you should wait. We are going to display a progress dialog, so just to indicate that the data is coming. So you should probably wait. Well, in order to do that, I think what's okay. So it's done. Okay, it's waiting for the views to report themselves. All right, so in order to do this, I'm going to just call a boolean. So boolean is loaded. So I'm just going to make it false by default. So which means that by default it's not loaded, right? And going back to our UI, right? Our UI code, where we have the body inside the scaffold, I'm just going to use something we call the ternary operation. So the ternary operation is basically something like a shortcut for if else statement, right? So instead of saying that if it's loaded, do this, else do that, right? You're going to use something called the ternary operation. So this is how it goes like, is loaded, right? A question mark. So this is the if. So if it is loaded, I think it's called circular something. Yeah, so circular progress. Else. So the column is the else. So basically that's it. So we are saying that no, I think this logic is wrong, but you are saying that if it is loaded, it should. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to negate this by adding the bang symbol. So I'm saying that if this is not loaded, right? So if this is false, it should display the progress icon. Else it should just display the body. So if it has data now, it will display the body. This has taken so much time. I think let me just do it from the terminal. So, yeah. So that's it. And now we need to indicate whether it is loaded or not, right? So inside our then for our get weather data, right? So you're going to basically rebuild the UI by using the set state keyword. So set state is basically, should I say, the basic state management in Flutter. It is inside it by default, right? So this just rebuilt your UI for you. And to do this, just call them. So the shortcut is just the SEX. So when you type, SES, it should give you the suggestion. So when you just click on it, so this is set state. So basically, you're going to say that. Now, before to do this, we need to check whether our response has been successful or not. So we can then say, so inside our then, right, and say if response dot status code is 200, right? So when you look at the postman response, right? So as you can see here, we have status code. So this means that it has been successful, right? So we're just checking whether it is successful. So if it's 200, then we do something else, then we do like something else. So inside our successful, I mean this, okay, we don't really need to state this inside whether it's successful, because it's going to be successful or not, and we still need it to disappear. So I can just add it here. Is loader, or no, I think it's loaded is true. So whether it is successful or not, we still want to basically tell it to go away. Yeah. And over here, so well, I don't know why this is waiting for to. Why is it taking so much time? Okay, but so with getting our data, right? So one thing I like to do is I always like to convert this over here into classes so that I can basically deal with them easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this response. So this is how the response will basically appear. And so I'm just going to copy it. And then there's this website that I use. Called QuickType. So app.quicktype.io, right? So this basically converts your JSON response. Yeah, your JSON response into into a model or a class in any language. So there are lots of languages here. There's that, so just select that and paste our response here, and I'll call it weather model. All right, yeah. So as you can see, it has generated the classes for us. Yeah, basically converting the JSON to classes, converting the classes back to JSON for us. So we can then copy it just by clicking here, and then go back to our code, right? So now inside our model, I'm going to now create a new file called weather model for that, and then sit here. So that, I mean, it's good to basically learn how to create this thing from scratch, but this will take a lot of time if we want to do it ourselves right now. So I'm just going to use this method, and inside our UI, over here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say weather, the weather model. Oh, okay, yeah. So I think I just realized something. So what I'm doing, I'm going to make this class return future, right? Future of type weather model. So it's going to complain that we don't have it here. So let's see. So what I'm going to say, weather model. Weather model, usual private class. Weather model. Just initializing the variable and over. So if there's an error, right, you want to set it to null because I mean there's no data. If there's a timeout, to you also want to set it to null. And if there is a response and it is positive, right? So it's successful. You want to say whether model equal to the model from JSON. So this response, so I'm coming. I think I missed one thing. So we need to get the response body, right? The JSON that we saw in our postman. So I'm just going to say body. I think it's almost up. Body is equal to so we're going to decode it. We're saying, is it decode or encode? Oh, yeah, decode it. Response. So response dot body. And then now this is in the form of a JSON file or in the form of a map. So we can then say get from body. So we are committing the response into a class or into a model. And then we can then return our weather model over here. So this is so simple. And if there's an error, as usual, we want to also say it is null. So then there's no need for it's loaded anymore. So I'm just going to take it out, show you the reason why. We can still know whether it is successful or not without using the is model. So I'm going to also take this out. Then yeah. So in order to is the UI, wow, this is let me see what I can use Android. So I'm just going to use another. Okay, so I want 0. Okay, so as the Android side builds, then we can continue. So in order for us to basically get our data in displayed in or update our UI or our view, right? With the body, the padding over here, this padding widget, right? I'm going to wrap it in another widget. And as I said that time, if you want to wrap another widget or replace or remove it, just click on it, go to this Bob icon. When you scroll down, is wrap with stream builder, right? So I'm just going to wrap it, and I'm going to give it a generic type. So the type is basically the model or the return type of our class, which is weather model. And let me just change this to a future. So we have a stream builder and future builder. So I think, yeah. So the Android side is working. So as you can see here, it's the Android side. I mean, since we place it inside the init, right? The ask permission, right? It's asking for permission. So it is asking whilst we are using the app or just one time. So when you select one time, right, it will allow you for that particular use. When you close the app and you open it again, it will ask for another permission. Then or you can deny. So I'll just say while app is in use. So basically that's it. We've basically just asked for permission and allowed it. Don't mind this logs over here. This is coming from another app that is running inside the emulator. So going back to our view over here. So to get our data right from the class, let me say weather. I think it's called get weather. Okay, so get weather data, right? So I mean, you remember this class we have here that returns weather model. That's what we are calling over here. So basically, you can then get to know whether the function is loading it's now loading the data. There's an error and other stuff. I mean, so we are going to use there's something called the connection state, right? So we're going to it has different enums under it. So I'm going to use a switch statement. So I'm going to say switch case. I'm going to say snapshot. So this snapshot, right? So this returns a context in a snapshot. So our data is inside the snapshot. So I'm going to say snapshot dot connection state. And I'm going to say inside the first case, the connection state. And see here dot none. So if there's no data, we want to show something. Connection. We have another case. Connection state dot waiting. So this means that it is basically it is trying to fetch the data. Then so the next one, let me just show you this. The next one is active and done. And this two they work closely. So I'm just going to let the other methods be catched by our default. So now what I'm going to do is, you see this, our view, so our entire view, right? Our entire view over here, the image and everything. I'm just going to copy it. Where is it? I think over here. I'm just going to copy it, cut it, and put it inside our default. I hope this makes sense. So what basically we are saying is, then to explain further, with our none, right? So we can then return text. We could say no weather data. They said it's fine. Okay. No weather data available. I mean, this guy just sent right. Then with waiting, right? So mean like we are waiting for the data. So I'm going to say return secular something secular progress. Yeah, secular progress indicator. And also I'm going to wrap it with center. So I'm not going to try and let me check. Let me try and see if I can make this a little smaller. So I'm just going to restart, hot restart, so we can see the effect. I think it's too fast. Let's see. Yeah, it's really too fast. But basically, I think I'll have to try it again so that we'll see it actually loading the data. So what again doing it? So now I think we now have to basically display our data. So we just update there. So code. So we have weather, and when I go back to my JSON file to get it, we have it here. So we have this, and so we have a list, right? So we have a list of the weather details, and as I said, we have 2 days, so we have only 2 inside. So in order to get to this list, right, so we need to call we just need to call dot list. Okay, so now I'm still going to use string calculation over here, say snapshot dot data, right, dot. So as you can see over here, these options, right, that's what we are saying. So dot list, and since we are just displaying 2, and this is going to be the first one, then this is going to be the second one, right? I'm going to say list dot. So you can use dot first, as you can see here. You can use dot first, or that's like getting a data from an array. That indicates the index or the position of the data. So I'm saying 0 because I want it to start from the first one, and then say dot. So going back to our, so we have this, then we have the temperature, we have field alike, then we have this, and we have weather. So we have, so we should be able to get dot weather from it. So dot, yeah, then we have dot weather over here. Then dot weather is also an array or a list, right? So I can also say I also get the first one inside it, and then say dot is it description? Let me see. Main. So it's called main. So dot main. So let me try and so now you cannot see the effect, the progress bar showing, and now we have it here called rain. So this is now dynamic depending on your location and whatever you see here. Just to add, let me quickly add the Accra, Ghana to that will be somewhere, I think city. So just wrapping up, right? So this is the last thing we'll do. I want you guys to try for the bottom one the next day, right? And then our next session, you basically explain it and also ask for if there's any clarification. So I think it's called name. Then adding the country to it. So snapshot dot data dot city dot, okay. To refresh this too. Okay, yeah. So I mean, I'm using later and it's picking. Yeah, so let me use this location. Basically, try and restart our application. Well, yeah. So we have an error, and I think we didn't handle it. So yeah. Oh, okay, okay. So I think we're supposed to. Supposed to rebuild our UI. So, yeah. Sorry. So we're supposed to rebuild our UI. No, we got the location, but I forgot to do that. So, this is it for this week. And I want you guys to try getting the temperature over here and over here. Then next week we'll look at getting the images, because there are some custom images for open weather API. So we'll use those custom images for our big image we have over here, and also this. So that is it for this week. If there are any questions, let me know. Sadrak, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Etonam. It's an awesome session today, and I'm sure a lot has been experienced, and a lot has been learned as well. Not like last week, we missed out a lot. But I think there have been some few questions here, and Randall, I think he answered them, but I don't know if you can hit on it again. So in case someone would like to know the reason why you mentioned that. Yes, so this particular question, I think, Randall, you answered the question, but I don't know if
Oh,
you
okay.
can.
Yeah, so I mean, this extension basically it helps you debug easily. So what it does is, I mean, as you're coding, right, it's basically reading your code, and the error messages that usually when you run, after you run it, before you see it, right, you actually see it beside your code. So it makes the coding and debugging easier for you, and it works with I think all languages. Yeah, because I've been using it with JS, TypeScript, and Java, and it works with them too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not specific to Dart at all. It just happens to work with the normal LSP language server protocol, whatever it is that can talk to the backends, like the Dart analysis server and things like that. And the information that is beside each line is also already down at the bottom of the screen under the problems tab. But that's a lot harder to then line it up to go back and find each one. Now you can click on each of those errors down there, but having error lens is so much nicer because you can just see immediately, oh yeah, here's a line that's broken, and fix it. And the colors change depending on the severity. You can customize that. Pretty cool. I just left it at the standard colors because red's pretty standoutish. So I really want to fix those right away. The blue ones are usually more of a warning sort of thing. Yeah. But they can also be indicative of something that's about to go wrong. So, yeah. Error lens. It's in the extensions. Now, I don't know if they have the same thing for Android Studio or for IntelliJ, but I know that at least VSC has it. So, and VSC is my editor of choice.
All right.
All right. So, thank you very much. I think there's another question here. Let me pop that out. Yep. Please, can I get idea about how you will restructure your project if multiple API requests are involved? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that changes the current structure I have a little. So usually this is what I do. I have so I have my views, right? So my view folder basically contains all my UIs. Then I have another folder called managers. Then I have services. Then I have utils, and also I have shared widgets. Then I have my model too. So this is how it goes. If I have to make any API request, right, and I've added that endpoint inside my. So usually, inside my util folder, right, I have two other folders called UI utils and network utils. So a network util basically is where usually I put my endpoint and also my custom HTTP client. So usually I like to create a singleton from the HTTP library or the client that I use, and also maybe add some caching in there and stuff like that. So they are all inside the network utils. Then I have my UI util, which is basically, let's say I need to format a date, and I use that formatting in a lot of places inside the app, right? So I just put it inside the UI util. Maybe I need to display a log. So I have my logger, which basically some like the print statement, right? But I have a different one that I use, so I just also add it in there. So that's for the util part. Now for the services, so the service is basically, if let's say I'm creating something like a social media an app, right, or let's say e-commerce, right? So I have my auth, so I have an auth service, and that auth service file has is a class that contains let's say login. So it contains the login, the registration, forget password. So it's inside that class, and that's for the auth service, right? And this auth service doesn't talk to the UI directly. It actually talks to the managers. So the manager basically is what is like an intermediate between the services and the UI. So inside my manager, I have another file they call authentication or auth manager. So now this auth manager basically consume the response from the service, right? So and check whether it is successful or not, handle the errors, knows what to return at what time and everything. So I do all that in there, and usually that is where you can add something like your state management, like you can have your provider there, and you can use your change notifier or state notifier inside your manager, since it's going to be talking directly with your UI. Now, inside your UI, that is where you call, or your UI file, that's where you call the manager. So something like the auth manager, then that's what basically you then pass the data to the auth manager, and it returns maybe whether it was true or false, whether there's an error and stuff like that. So I mean, for me, that's how I structure my project. If I have like multiple endpoints calls that I have to make.
Yeah, another thing I'll add to that is there are as many different layouts as there are people. People do what they're comfortable with. I'd like to add to what you said earlier about the underscore as well, though, that the underscore isn't necessarily local to a class. It's local to the library, which 95% of the time it's the file. So if you want to have two classes that are cooperating, that want to share secret data that can't be seen outside that file, you can have the underscore method names, you can have underscore variables, and those will only be seen in some languages that would be called by friend classes.
Okay.
And so that's a really handy feature to know if you want to share something sort of regionally rather than globally or just locally.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we have spent much time here. We've spent a lot of time already. So if there is no question, I think, yes, sure. You are welcome, Alfred. Thanks for joining. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And do join us next week as we will continue with this awesome project. I'm sure most of you already like it. Yeah, Kingsford, you came in late, but don't worry. The recorded version or the pre-version is still there for you to watch, so you can get it on the platform to watch. Let me share the link as well in case GDG Accra. So you can visit the GDG Accra platform, or I will share it here as well, so that you can get the video there, or the series, okay, from episode 1 to 5. Yeah, Rihanna.
Yeah, I would like to say something earlier about what I thought the problem was where it wouldn't refresh at the beginning. The init state method, needs to be synchronous, and it has to finish before you can start displaying anything on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think you were calling some things that had an await inside them.
Yeah.
And so you were getting one guy pointing at the other guy going, well, you go first. No, you go first. And the problem with that is it doesn't work. So what you want to do instead in an init state, generally, there are exceptions, but generally what you do is you can go ahead and call APIs, but understand that it's returning a future. So don't have a final await in what you're calling. Let it return the future to you. And then you store that future in a variable, and then you look at it with Future Builder.
Oh, okay.
That's the general strategy, because one thing I like to model when I'm thinking about futures is, what if this took 5 seconds? I say 5 seconds because it's an incredibly long time, but not completely unbelievable occasionally. And you can't hold up painting the first homepage for 5 seconds. So there can't be any chain of things that would have to await for that. It has to be done by handing back a future that you can then use a future builder on and vary your UI depending on how much data you currently have. So yeah, always think of a future as taking 5 seconds. And then try not to bunch those up.
Okay. Thank you.
Little tip. Yeah. Okay. Well, and thanks for having me again, by the way. I'm happy to always drop by when I'm available. I think I'm even available next week, so I guess I may be coming back.
Yeah. I'm sure we will wrap it up by next week.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, you're getting really close. You're getting data, even if it's from Cupertino. Mountain View. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Epanam, and then Randa. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
So.
Goodbye.
Bye.